Campbell's opening victory in the GTP class certainly raised some eyebrows. However, we're at bad luck. Gerber appeared to have the legs on him back in Detroit. Daytona may provide a more straightforward race today as we get ready to watch round 2 of the iRacing Kamel GT series, and you'll see it all live here on the global SimRacing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Robert O'Brien. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Daytona's more recent NASCAR layout of the road course has added yet another option here at the Florida circuit. Let's head to our track guide to get an overview of this incredible venue. Welcome to the Daytona International Speedway. While many oval fans associate this Central Florida track with mainly NASCAR, the road course has gained just as much worldwide fame thanks to it hosting motorcycles and sports cars for decades. In fact, the flagship road race, the 24 Hours of Daytona, has become a major draw for drivers of all disciplines, many eager to have a go at endurance racing. The stats make this place sound relatively simple, with 12 corners on the regular road circuit and 14 on the NASCAR version, both spread amongst 3.5 miles. Indeed, a majority of the lap is spent on the oval portion, where you fly along the notoriously steep banking. But it's easy to underestimate the challenge presented to the drivers. The infield portion begins with the scary kinked entry of Turn 1. Not only is it the fastest part of the track, but the transition from the banking to the flat tends to upset the car as you slow it down. There's also the bus stop chicane on the backstretch. Added in the 80s, this is a tricky piece of circuit that punishes a poor exit severely, with it leading back into the latter half of the oval. As you'd expect, the long periods on throttle mean that drafting tends to play a factor in the racing. It also means passing isn't usually too great of an issue if you have the pace to catch someone. The more difficult thing is managing to gap your opponent so that they don't ride in your slipstream once you get by. With half a century of endurance racing collected among these walls, it's not unfair to say that road racers have just as much claim to call Daytona home. Fans who come to watch certainly won't be disappointed by the high speeds and fantastic thrills it invariably provides each year. Well, this is one of those tracks that is pretty much a must for the Kamel series at some point in the season. But the NASCAR road layout here, Robert, how are we expecting the Kamel series cars to handle that?
I'd imagine, especially coming through the intersections, basically the horseshoes in the middle, coupled with the fact that you have the bus stop, it's going to be a lot of high speed breaking into low speed maneuvering, and then it's the little kink at the end. You know, it's that included little, hey, you gotta slow down for this. I think the big GTP cars are going to have a very difficult time getting that just right, and they do need to get that just right, especially for the bus stop coming through the NASCAR in 3 and 4.
Yeah, so will it offer us passing opportunities, or will it keep everybody kind of in line here today? We'll find out soon enough. Before that, let's take a look at the championships, starting with the prototypes. And Sean Campbell, as I mentioned, with the win over Toyka, with Schneider, Gerber, and Sintez Guindo rounding out your top 5. The real interesting one is Fabian Gerber, who does seem to be quick once again, has found his feet after a bit out in the wilderness. He's fast, but will he be able to keep it up over the course of his season? Robert, what about the GTO standings?
Leskela in first position, a very good win from him, just followed directly behind him by Philip Lake. Ian Haycock's not far behind them. Jamie Hamill-Smith in 4th, and rounding up the top 5 so far after race 1, Nicholas Mekanos is in 5th.
For today's race itself, we have the regular format of 40 minutes here today, so sprint race here at Daytona, and it is open setup. But the good news is, with a niche series like this, drivers often try to share openly with one another so that nobody is really out of it and can feel comfortable, so they have more fun with more friends. But they also have no faster pair, so if you get some damage from one of those friends, you're going to have to come into pit lane unscheduled and get that repaired before you can get going, as most of the drivers have started their first flying lap, and we're watching Nick Schneider among those coming into the infield, down into the international horseshoe for the first time in anger. Looks like temperatures here in Florida pretty far up there today, Rob. So I'm wondering if that's going to play a part in how they handle in that infield section.
Yeah, especially when, as I said before, it's the braking points are going to be a big difficulty for these big old GTP cars. You know, they can go super quick, up in the upwards of 290, 300 kilometers an hour. But you know, when you have big braking points, as we're coming up to the bus stop, the main bus stop here on board with Nicholas Schneider, as he executes a perfect maneuver through. You need that consistency. You need that just flying the dart through the middle. Not a lot of room for error in these cars, so I'd say the temperature is going to play havoc, especially with those who are unprepared. And we're coming into here, especially at the NASCAR kink right here, just miss the curbs on these GTP cars. If you take them sausage curbs, oh, that's going to ruin your race.
Yeah, they're real reliant on the bodywork on them. I have to imagine it's certainly going to bend them up if you try and take those curbs too hard. Nick Schneider, the first one with a time on the board. Now we look at Robbo as Olenek comes into the chicane. A lot longer braking zones for these Audis, but he manages it well, also keeping off of the curbs in the NASCAR chicane. And he comes to the line. Looks like Hugh Haycock's going to be the first to set a time in that class. And Rob will not match him. He's about 4/10 behind.
It's going to be like this for the while. You know, the first lap is always going to be sort of the marker. You know, if you have a bad first lap, you know, you're riding on everything to come together in the second lap, and that's not the real way to be. You need to have a good first lap so you can set yourself up for the second lap. It's sort of like, you know, psyching yourself up. You want a good first lap, banker, perfect. And then on the second lap, you just need to gun it. You need to gun it as fast as you can. At least you have a qualifying position. That's the main thing.
Exactly. Well, interestingly, Gerber did not go faster than Schneider on that first one, so maybe he was putting in a banker as Andre Schumacher comes over from the Lotus 49s to try his hand here in the Audi. Looks like he'll put himself 12th in class amongst those. Hugh Haycock still holding the provisional pole. Sintez Guindo is now heading towards the line. He and Laus Stolson, the only of the prototypes that have yet to put a time on the board. And it looks like Aitor is a 38.1, good enough for 6. Very good qualifying for him. And Olsen, this is his second lap, so this is his last try. A 37.3 is going to put him into third. Whoa! Olsen is flying today.
A nice strikeout. Here we are with Hugh Haycock as he's trying to best his time. He already did a 149.820, and he missed the Lotus curve. That's a mistake coming out of the NASCAR kink. He almost ended up into the wall. That is going to be pivotal for the cars as they come through, and he just didn't make it. That is Robbo coming into the line. Does he improve his time? No, he doesn't. Let's see with Ian Haycock's correction, if he makes any positions. I think he went 10th.
Phil Lake just took the provisional pole in that GTO class. We do not have Lescala here today, so the cat is away. The mice are beginning to play already. Mark Olay down into the line for his second lap of 51.4, 4/10 quicker. That'll bump him into 11th as we look at Novak next.
He comes up to the line, nice cut through, a bit slow, but a nice cut through. He avoided the sausage curbs. We're going to have to pay close attention to the NASCAR King because it's them sausage curbs. They'll do you absolutely no favors if you ride them, especially in the GTP. The GTOs could just touch them, you know, just give them a little kiss, but you know, not much else they can do. And we saw that with Hugh Haycock as he almost got bounced into the wall. Whoa. And you can see here Christopher Lee's carrying massive amounts of damage. Wouldn't hesitate to say that was probably from hitting the sausage curb on the inside, coming around to the right onto the main bank.
He's not going to be able to get around to complete a second lap, so he's going to have to start from the back of his class. Michael Haynes down 20th in his class, last of the qualifying time. He's going to try and improve it as he comes to the line. Don't think we've got anybody else who can take one out there right now. And the 43 car will improve to a 54.3, but he stays in 20th, unfortunately.
Mark Gamma, can he improve his time? He already did a 1:41.652. Does he improve a 1:41.231? Does that move him up? It does not.
That was his third lap, so it doesn't count for him. Phil Lake improves and puts himself farther away from anybody else on the grid, but I don't think we've got anybody else that is able to set a time as Michel de Jong takes the Tic Tac car across, and it looks like a 51.1 will be a small improvement in time, but he stays in ninth. The seconds tick down. The session is over. Let's go through our starting grid here today. On the pole, Nick Schneider is quicker than Fabian Gerber, continuing to improve race by race, as that is Heitor Sintez Guindo, who will start right behind them, and Laust Olsen with an excellent qualifying for fourth. You've got Fabian Jungbluth starting P5, as Kevin Brooks will be in sixth. Then it's John Keefe in P7. Aaron Stillwell will be eighth, followed by Zach Price, two names I'm not sure that we've seen here before. He's in ninth as Jacob Reed rounds out your top 10. Javier Mascara will be in 11th behind him. You've got Pablo Costa on the outside of that row, with Manuel Tolentino in 13th and Patrick Silvazzi in P14. Douglas Cloud starts 15th, Nicholas Rage 16th, and Ed Ray in 17th. Last two on the GTP grid are Mark Gamick and Jeffrey Furcon. Rob, what about
GTOs? I was just about to come in with Philip Lake taking the top spot there on row one, right beside Robbo in second place, Philip Lake in third. And counting down, we then have Nicholas McCannos, Reed Miller in fifth, Ove Tango Reed in sixth,
and Rob Olenek in seventh place, and Jamie Hamill-Smith will be in P8. You've got Michel de Jong starting in ninth, followed by Hideki Koivisto in P29. Mika Tupola will be 30th, and it's Mark Olay in P31, as Marty Olay, not sure if there's any relation there, he'll be 32nd. Ian Haycock's 33rd, followed by Devin Donaghy in P34. Andre Schumacher, 35th overall, as Marty Novak will follow him. Last few to set times, Laskin, Carrera, and Haynes. Then Oliver, Ascensos, Lees, and Arribas will round out your GTO field. And already we're on our way on the pace lap.
Key thing for the GTPs, I think, is going to be charge down into turn one. They're not going to have as much speed, I don't think, coming out of the NASCAR King as they would be used to if they were to run the essentially the same road course without the NASCAR kink. So you look backwards and you can just see what would appear to be to you and I as 1,000,000 horsepower ready to get going, and it's just the scream of the cars that really gets you. It's such a nice sounding car, but it's terrifying going into turn one with these kinds of cars. Be taking it slow, I think, is the motto of the day for these guys.
Well, who can manage to keep it together as being slow while being fast, as they try and weave their way through that NASCAR chicane. They can't cut it here on iRacing, unfortunately, and quickly get the green flag as we start round two in the iRacing Kamel GT series. And Nick Schneider has got a good jump over Gerber, but Olsen and Sintez Guindo are going to try and fight for third down into the first corner. And down to the inside, Sintez Guindo is going to take that P3. Rest of them look relatively clean. Rob, what's the start for the GTOs look like?
Philip Lake taking a nice and easy. He just got a really good launch off coming into turn one, and everybody's sort of filing in and one at a time. And so they're taking a very, as I expected, sort of very nice and easy. Just let's get through lap one. We'll see how the positions move up, but Philip Lake leading them behind Hugh K. Cox, and Topi Kortenaimi is in third for them.
So we take a look at our leaders once again in the GTPs. Schneider still pulling away from Gerber, almost a full second ahead of him. Most of the battles have been a little bit farther between Jungbluth, Brooks. I saw Keefe in there for a brief while. You can see them there in the background as they come onto the back stretch, and it looks like Jungbluth is going to take that spot as he slots into line into fifth place. towards the bus stop for the first time, flying hard.
Yeah, Kevin Brooks, he had it coming out onto NASCAR 1 and 2, but Fabian just had that extra leg.
Watching from onboard John Keefe now, seeing if he could take advantage of Brooks getting held up slightly. They head into the NASCAR chicane. You can see how quickly they're off of the banking into there. Nobody daring to touch those tall curbs. And they're all going to make it through, at least for the first half of the field, watching to see if anybody behind them has issues. It looks like everybody is going to be able to complete lap 1 in the prototypes.
Oh. Let's see how Philip takes the line through. Nice and easy, just tic-tac-toe. He just needs to hit his marks. He doesn't need to hit the sus curves. It's a not fun time if he does. He's got the car number 1 of Hugh Haycox right behind him. He's still there, holding line as they come into turn 1 again. Does Hugh Haycox make a move on the inside? No, he doesn't. That would have been a very good overtaking maneuver now as we're on board with Hugh Haycox chasing down the car number 3. And it is going to be like this, I think, for the next few laps, as Haycox is just trying to test the metal. He's just trying to see where he can make the move. He could make it coming up into the bus stop as well, so he's got 2 prime positions to make the move. He just needs, really to see where things stand between him and Philip Lake.
Let's keep the cameras here. This is still a close fight for the lead, but I can tell you that Trangerade had a mistake in the NASCAR chicane, lost the spot to De Jong and Olenek. So that's a change a little bit farther behind the podium. Speaking of which, we might have a change for the podium in the prototypes because Olsen is being run down by Sintez Guindo. 2 wide into NASCAR chicane is not going to go well. One of them is going to have to give way. The question is, who wins this game of chicken? It looks like it's going to be Olsen.
Yeah, Aitor, he just didn't have the legs to pull it completely side by side. He had the move just ever so slightly too far behind. I think if he just had it about a good 50 feet forwards in terms of Laust Olsen, he definitely would have had the move coming into the NASCAR King, but he just needs to focus now. He's got the pace. He just needs to focus, get him on the bus stop, and then secure the position using the kink rather than the other way around.
Here's the complication. We can't see it from the onboard, but Jungbluth is closing in behind him quite quickly. So now, unfortunately, he's sandwiched, having to play defense and offense.
And with these cars, you kind of have to pick one or the other. By extension, if you attack, you'd get sort of the benefit of having to push the guy ahead of you, and if he makes a mistake, you can go past him, and your rear flank is secured. But if you sit here, then these cars they're good for slipstreaming. So if you get stuck behind a car for too long, the guy behind you is going to get some ideas. So it's always one to watch out for.
They pulled away from Jungbluth this time, coming up to the bus stop chicane, so I think he'll be okay there. And let's head over to the GTOs, because not only is Haycock still chasing Lake, but look at the group behind him. These are boxy little cars. I'm not too shocked that we're getting something of a train forming up.
Boxy little cars, but the sound is just glorious. And you can see there, Ryan Miller is really close to the rear end of the car number 7. And he just, can he use the slipstream? Now would be a good time to go on the outside or on the inside. He's got the pace. He makes a move on the outside, or on the inside correction, towards the bus stop. And that is going to be a tight squeeze coming into the bus stop. Does he make it through? He does indeed. A very nice, cleanly executed move. But going wide through the bus stop, does that hamper him? Does that give Topi an extra leg to try and secure the pass? No, he doesn't.
Behind them, they've also got Nick Mukanos giving watch. Thought he'd have a better run on this. Courtniemi instead is thinking about trying to get this one back on Reed. Reed defends down into the NASCAR chicane, and he's going to hit the apexes, doesn't overshoot it. Oh, looks a little sketchy coming off.
I think he kissed or got on the throttle too early. That's side-by-side action. That's Hugh Haycock on the inside. Hugh Haycock has it nice and planted there as he comes into turn 1, but that is Philip Lake coming around the outside. Does he make the outside move happen? They're still side-by-side coming past turn 1, and Hugh Haycock secures the position on the inside. Wow.
At the same time, it looks like Courtniemi got Miller behind them for third, so change for the lead as the number 1 car takes P1. Will Phil Lake sit behind him? There's no pit stops today in this sprint format, so unless he thinks it's better for them not to fight for the time being, does he dare try and lead again?
Depends. If he can get away with it and just save his tires and then use them when...
Oh, all right, Nick Schneider just spun. Gerber is now the leader in the prototypes, and this was in NASCAR chicane. This was some contact between them.
See in the replay. Coming up into the NASCAR kink, that is Nicholas Schneider. Again, oh, just a tap, just a slight tap, unfortunately.
As we're going to take a look at the top. Might have been a little bit of net code here, just minor. Yeah, he was close. I think he was on a trajectory, though.
It's unfortunate. I mean, it was just a little tap, but these guys are very sort of timid, be a better word for it. You can't... he's sending on the inside.
Back. No, he's giving it back. I think Gerber didn't like that he got it through contact. He's going to give it back to Schneider. These guys are very much into the idea of fair play, so he's going to try and do it cleanly, but this is going to put them a lot closer to Olsen and Sintez Guindo.
I mean, fair play to him. Fair play to Gerber for doing that. You know, it's good to see sportsmanship like that, and it's unfortunate that it did happen, but I'd say everybody would like that. Everybody would like that.
Well, if he's got the pace to try and attack once, he should have the pace to try and attack a second time, but he's got to set it up. They're already catching the back of the GTO field. That's Haynes that they're going by as we check out Sintez Guindo, who's going to look on the high side. This is where it's going to get interesting, as they have to now navigate these slower Audis through some of these tight, twisty little chicanes.
Yeah, Aitor almost scrolling under braking there. He was having to correct the car using steering inputs to try and keep it straight. He didn't think that Olsen would slow down just as much as he did, just a little hair more than he was expecting. One of the worries that you have when you're doing this kind of racing, especially when you have multi-class cars that are coming towards you, you kind of have to be aware at all times. You can't just fall into a routine. You gotta always force yourself to keep pushing.
As we look at the GTO lead briefly, and now we glance at Rob Olenek as well. Behind them, I can report that Lake did take back the lead from Haycox. That was as we were watching the replay between Schneider and Gerber. But Rob Olenek now sitting behind Nick Mukanos in the number 8. This is for 5th position as the yellow car stalks him heading towards the NASCAR chicane. A little too far back here. Oh, look at him close under braking, though.
It's a very dangerous game, especially in this kink, to close the gap under braking, because them sausage scripts are ready to greet you, and they're not going to have a good time with your suspension. The less said, the better for the GTO cars when it comes to those sausage scripts. And we can just see Hugh Haycox is not letting up the pressure on Philip Lake. As Philip Lake we're on board with, looking backwards towards the car number 1. Car number 1 having a little bit of damage on the front left, probably cosmetic, because Hugh Haycox is not letting up the pressure whatsoever, and Philip Lake is going to be feeling that constantly, every corner, as he comes into the second horseshoe.
Yeah, but
no real moves.
At these speeds, I wonder if even minor damage could maybe hamper you a mile an hour or two. As we go back to our leaders. Oh, and a pass for third behind them, as it looks like Sintez Guindo and Olsen are at it again. They're going to go side by side down in the International Horseshoe, maybe 3 wide. Ascensos in front of them. He's going to pull off to the left, and this will allow Olsen to retain P3.
Traffic and play, absolute pivotal moments, especially when you catch them at just the right time. And the GTP cars really do have to be aware of that. The last thing you want is to have a massive accident, involving multi-class cars. Very respectable by both classes to keep it nice and clean so far, but Olsen making use of the fact that he has that bookmark on the inside.
As we go back to our lead in the GTOs, it's Lake ahead of Haycox. Haycox looking to the high side as Lake tries to defend. No pass down into the chicane this time. I can report that behind them, Olenek managed to get by Mukanos, but let's stay here as they come past the start-finish line. He's staying right in the tire tracks. He's once again going to look a little bit higher. Now ducks down low underneath him, just not quite close enough. But it's starting to become a two-horse race between Lake and Haycox. Kortaniemi behind by about 2 seconds.
The one thing I did notice, by the way, was Philip Lake is actually taking a very defensive line coming into the kink itself. You know, he's taking a very shallow line coming into the first section. And he's just trying to feather it as best he can, like he's doing with the bus stop. I think he's seeing that Haycox really does have an extra leg up due to the slipstream, and he's just trying to seal it off from any even a potential move on the inside. And it's playing into his hands so far, but will that usurp him if he accidentally cuts too much of the sausage coming onto the exit? Remember, we did see that GTO car almost getting ejected into the wall on qualifying, so it is something that he has to be concerned about.
Well, it's also a concern that the traffic is going to be coming through because our GTP leaders are now in the thick of the GTO field. I think in about a lap, they should be approached by Schneider and Gerber. Nick Schneider, by the way, is making good on that traffic. He's gapped Gerber by about 9/10 of a second, as you see them on screen now, coming up to yet another battle in front of them.
Yeah, that's Marty Ole and Hideki Koivisto for 9th and 10th respectively, and just getting the battle done just in time for Nicholas Schneider to make his way by. I think he would have been very happy about that in his cockpit as he sees Fabian Gerber bearing down on him at a great pace, coming on the outside, coming on the NASCAR 3-4, and just launches in. I think Nicholas Schneider knew the game was up, and he makes a mistake. That is going to be Fabian Gerber taking too much speed coming into... Oh, and sorry, we just had an accident behind him. Laust Olsen is in the wall.
Wow.
You just saw that. You just saw it there. We just too much of the curb. Oh,
and he got some help. Unfortunately, the Audi was not expecting him to check up, trying to catch the car, it seems. Oh, and somebody else. Was that Jungbluth also having problems? Yeah, that was Fabian Jungbluth. Looks like
it's so unfortunate.
Maybe everybody kind of checking up, seeing the accident unfolding, and that just caused a domino effect. So we're going to take one more look at the replay. This is Fabian's accident. See if we can pick anything more out of it. Oh, almost looks like it started to happen before that. Oh, that's what happens when you cut the course.
Yeah, it's a little bit of, just a little bit of everything coming together. It's unfortunate, but back to Philip Lake and Hugh Haycox, as again, Hugh Haycox not catching him where he needs to. He needs to catch him in the bus stop and then secure the position using the kink, but he's going to try it now. He doesn't have the speed, though, to really start sending it. Oh, well, I say that. Has side-by-side action coming up to the... Oh, sending it around the outside. He goes. Hugh Haycox. That is an absolute gem of a move right there, coming into the NASCAR kink, sending it around the outside on Philip Lake. Philip has no way to respond, and he just lets the gas off, just to say, off you go. The race is on for P1 in GTO.
We're getting close to the halfway mark already in this race, so at some point, this fight's going to get a little spicy, as both of them will want to be leading. The question is when and where, with how powerful the draft appears to be. Right now, Hugh Haycox holding the advantage as Olsen's finally pitting to try and repair that car, as it's just too much from his incident. Up at the front, it's Nick Schneider still leading, but a very similar looking car. Here is Zach Price with Mosquera chasing him down. And look at that, Pablo Costa joining the fray quite quickly. Good under braking. The 29 suddenly joins the fray.
Yeah, Javier Mosquera under threat, mainly from the rear flank of Pablo Costa in 9th. He's gained 5 positions so far in the race. His last lap was 142 through traffic, so he's doing very well for himself and just needs to keep the pressure on Javier Mosquera. Car number 19 having to deal with traffic up ahead as we have a GTO, and Javier sees that Zach Price is also dealing with traffic. Oh, having to cut through two cars going low and going high. Just having to navigate them as he comes up to the bus stop. I don't think he might actually have just an outside chance of coming into the bus stop side by side. No, he leaves it out of the question for now. Probably will make the move either before the NASCAR kink, as I'm being proved wrong. I originally thought the NASCAR kink was a no pass zone. Been proven wrong twice so far.
It can be done. It's risky though. Price though got a better exit out of that bus stop chicane. Oh, but they're coming up quick to Hamill-Smith. I think they're going to catch him maybe at the right time. No, I think they're going to unfortunately have to deal with this car into the pit lane, or into the infield, as almost into the pit lane goes Pablo Costa, spinning up the rear tires out of the NASCAR chicane and down into the first corner. Price still leads Mosquera, but he's ever closer at about 4/10 behind.
Zach Price really is going to start feeling the pressure right about now, especially given the fact that traffic is really not on his side, and you can just see up ahead more traffic, and it's going to be ingrained in his head. He has to keep the car behind him. Well, how can you do that when you also have to navigate traffic safely and just keep their marks as they are? And especially given the fact that he'll have the traffic through the NASCAR 1 and 2 mostly, few probably coming into the bus stop itself. He'd be happy about that, but it's not over yet between Mosquera and Price.
Also, they've got a huge run of traffic. Mucanos, Olenek, Trangarade, Miller are all fighting for position in front of them. This could very much play a part in that battle for 8th in the GTPs. There you see them on screen. This is essentially for, well, 3rd place, because Courtniemi is also being caught by this group. So 5 of them now. Price has got 1. Looks like a slow exit for Olenek as he gets overtaken by Trangarade.
Olenek he cut way too much of both the 2 exit curbs coming out of the bus stop. He actually jumped a little bit in the air as he was coming through, and he just had to let Ove through. There was not enough speed for him to catch up, and he's now under threat from Reed Miller. Reed Miller making an absolute perfect use of the slow speed that Rob has right now. He just has to keep his head together. Oh, on the inside, a little bit of a squeeze. But Reed secures it on the inside. Very nice move there from Reed, executing it using the infield.
Job done. As yet more of the prototypes take away the apex, trying to run their own race. This is a fight between Rage and Zilvazi. Oh, but it looks like Zilvazi gonna spin the tires up. He's the one that rages against the machine. Oh, and off the track, Mosquera in the 19, unfortunately, is going to lose a whole bunch of spots. How did he get out there in the grass?
Let's see. And we just see him coming into the first horseshoe on the inside. Oh, a little bit of a wiggle coming out of the first horseshoe, and just contact trying to keep the car straight, and it's unfortunate because he just gunned the rear wheels too much and just tried correcting it with his steering wheel, but there's a car on his left-hand side.
Let's head to P3 and the GTOs, because I think Mucanos has got the run on Courtniemi. He does. He makes the pass down into the bus stop chicane. Behind them, that's Silvazzi still trying to pick his way past those 2. He's going to get an easy attempt here in NASCAR 3 and 4. Will there be retaliation from the Finn as the California driver tries to pick the middle line, setting it up? He does not defend, though he catches up to him. Courtniemi has no response. Mosquera plugged up between them.
Yeah, it's going to be Nicholas's race really to lose if he makes a mistake, because he does have a commanding lead over the car number 7. Oh, sorry, Mosquera having a little issue coming onto the turn 1. A little bit too much braking, leans to the grass, almost making another similar mistake like he did coming through the first horseshoe, but just saved it just in time. I don't think Nicholas would have appreciated it too much if he had gotten hit on the side, but no harm, no foul.
Let's stay here for now, but that's spread apart a little bit. I was about to say that Schneider and Gerber closed in on one of their... Actually, no, now they are once again, as traffic is going to cause them to shorten that distance. And here comes Gerber looking up on the high side. It's his best chance in a while. Last time he tried this, it came down to contact. And then the second time, he went off the track. This time, he's going to make it through clean. Gerber is your new leader.
A very well executed move, coming in on the outside, tucking in on the inside, keeping it nice and tight through the exit, and then just executed it perfectly.
Schneider's not giving up on it, though. Look at how close he is behind. He wants to try and pay him back. And down into the international horseshoe, not quite close enough to attack as this is happening. This is where I wish we could have multiple cameras, because we've got quite the battle between Kortaniemi, Mukanos, Miller, and Olenek. Looks like that settled itself out as these two now down into the western horseshoe. All it'll take is a good slipstream, and Schneider could just blow right past again.
Yeah, Schneider needs to know that, you know, his defense was not in vain. He definitely is putting up the big guns in terms of being able to really take it to Fabian, and he just needs to play it cool for a few laps, regain his composure. He'll be back at it again in no time. He just needs to make sure Fabian knows he's there and knows that he can attack at any time. You know, he'd be saying to Fabian, I'm here, I can attack at any time, but I'll let me decide when to attack, not you this time.
Oh, we had a bad exit or a missed shift for Ove Trangarade, so Kortaniemi's going to get third place back in the GTOs. Mukanos thinks about trying to take advantage of it, but can't quite. This is nose to tail stuff, all for the last step on the podium. They have dropped a full 10 seconds back from the top two.
And it's going to be like this. It's going to be sort of this move back and forth, I think, for the next little while. You know, Topi
pass for the lead, and the GTP sorry to yank us around, but Schneider absolutely mugged Gerber into the first corner. That came out of nowhere.
A nice outside move. Well, I thought it was going to be an outside move. Crikey, on the inside goes Nicholas Schneider. He saw the door opening just a little bit, drove it right in, and perfect execution coming out, making sure that he didn't spin up the wheels too much, and executed perfectly. Now it's Fabian's game to play.
Nick spied a little bit of a nightcap on Fabian's head and caught him sleeping. Wow, this is sudden a mess. Oh my goodness, down into the NASCAR chicane. Are they going to go too wide? They're going to try it. That's Mukanos to the inside of Kortaniemi. They're going to get backed up. Nose to tail contact between Olenek and Kortaniemi. The rest trying to sort it out as Reed Miller spins up the tires. Trangarade isn't able to take advantage, and now Ed Ray is going to get in the midst of it.
And as you can see that there was a GTP blinking his lights. He didn't know where people were going. There was one outside, one inside. He was trying to cut through the middle. We were on board with Nicholas, car number 8, looking backwards towards Topi in the car number 7. As he sees a screaming GTP coming up towards them, he'll make a buy, but it is absolutely pandemonium. That was a very close call in between the NASCAR King side by side. I've never seen it before. Oh, GTP going wide.
Looks like Ray, unfortunately, losing control. He's going to have to cut across the infield there before he can get back racing. Thankfully, did not hit anything. As that all was happening, Schneider got repassed by Gerber down the backstretch. So Fabian, once again, your prototype leader, and we're starting to see less patience on who's leading. They both want to be in front.
Well, they see the time ticking down. Time is the worst enemy of nearly everybody. You always want to have plenty of time to be able to execute a move, but it's a 40-minute race. You know, for the first 20 minutes, they're just trying to sort themselves out, trying to get themselves set up for a perfect pass, and then getting Gaba. That is Fabian Gerber going wide, coming out of the second horseshoe, is able to correct it just in time, so that it isn't too bad. But, you know, with that time ticking down, it's leading to less and less laps to be able to make the move and then stick it. And it's going to be pandemonium between these two as well, I imagine.
You have to wonder what kind of traffic are they going to be near when it gets to be those last laps as well, because that could play a huge part. We can't keep our eyes off of this GTO battle for P3 with Mukanos leading Korteniemi, Olenek, Miller, and Trangaré. To big close under braking from Topi, but then he loses it on the exit.
Yeah, so Topi needs to be careful because, as we discussed before, these kinds of cars, you kind of have to be attacking as best you can, especially in this group of 5. They're inseparable. Oh, very close. Rob to the rear flank of Nicholas. It's a very not happy looking car right now. It's very it's very unfortunate. It's a very angry car, yes indeed, and just needs to be careful not to add too much to that, because cosmetic can turn into real damage very quickly as they come through the second horseshoe. And that is Topi getting backed up as Nicholas makes the best use of that time and starts putting distance between himself and the car number 7 as they come around onto the 1-2. We need to just see if Rob will take the position away from Topi coming around the outside on 1-2. Does he take it?
Doesn't look like it. And unfortunately for Robbo, well, now he's starting to feel the draft. I was going to say, with the damage on the front of that car, if he starts to lead anybody in this race, he might be a sitting duck. Certainly not on the brakes, where he's making up for that and clearly past Topi. But now, let's see. Okay, this will give us a good idea. He's not getting the best of toes from Mukanos. He's a ways ahead. So, Rob, I'm wondering if Topi's going to just breeze past.
Could potentially. It's really all depends on where they make the move. You know, I've been proven wrong. Moves can be made in NASCAR kink. I think I've been proved wrong enough times to say it can be done. Very difficult, but it can be done. But Topi just needs to bide his time as he's under threat. Sorry, he's under threat from Ove in the number 11 car, just screaming by on the inside.
Reed Miller.
Yeah, exactly. I think the question should be at. Oh, sorry, that's a GTP going wide, coming out of turn 1, having to get by. No! Oh, Miller goes off track. He winds up the victim of that situation. The 3 of them trying to squeeze through the chicane coming into the infield just was not going to work. Unfortunately, he got a bump from Topi. You could see who got shoved by that GTP, and then off into the grass goes Reed Miller. He returns in 7th place. Yeah, sort of the if you've got a certain number of sticks through the shortest, unfortunately. We just see now as he has his misfortunes, he has the traffic building up behind him with Fabian Gerber and Nicholas Schneider coming by, trying to see if they can do their best to really turn up the wick, as it were. We just see, oh, there's a mistake from Fabian. No, that was Ray. That's right. That was a lapped car. I was going to say, it's always tougher to lap a car within your own class. He certainly gave a scare to the 5 and the 4. Watch this. Looking from the rear, I genuinely thought that was it, and there was going to be a big mistake from Fabian, but nope. All is well in his world. He just needs to keep going. And sorry, Nicholas Schneider just dropped back quite a bit. He just lost a second in the bus stop. Well, he was caught between Jamie Hamill-Smith and Reed Miller, so he had to give up a bunch of time, and that may have cost him the slipstream. Will that allow Gerber to finally break away? And, you know, Nicholas is not going to do himself any favors. He actually just gave a big old whack at the inside sausage curve coming into the kink. And as you can see, just ahead of him is even more pandemonium. It's going to be the 3rd place of Nicholas Mukanos in the car number 8, being driven helter-skelter by the car number 2 of Rob in 4th position, as they are in an interlocked battle. These two are inseparable. I think 3rd through 7th were inseparable until about a lap ago, where it's now 3rd through 5th are now inseparable. The traffic splitting them up as the GTPs are trying to get by them as quickly as possible to try and minimize time loss and trying to minimize the risk of them being put under pressure. As we can see, that's Nicholas Schneider passing on the outside of the 2. Oh, having to sort of slot in where there was a free space, and that was Fabian Gerber going wide, having to go around the outside as the GTOs tuck in. All right, they're clear of that huge melee. Will it be a little bit nicer to them from here on out in these final
9 minutes of the race. Mukano's still in third in those GTOs with Trangerade and Olenek trying to chase him for it, but losing a little bit more time. We followed the battle between Lake and Haycox early, but that is since split since a long time ago, hence why I haven't seen them on screen, and the 3 has been in control.
He's doing very well. He's putting in almost very fast laps. He's just put in a 150.165 compared to Hugh Haycox, who did a 151.178, just using all of the track as best he can. 3-second gap between the two of them right now. Philip Blake just needs to make sure he doesn't get into any pandemoniums, any mistakes. He just needs to bring it home now. But Hugh, he can pull a surprise out of the bank. He can put in a few good laps and the game's back on. It's not over yet between these two. Mark my words.
No doubt about that. The way the slipstream allows them to hang close to one another. All it'll take is one little mistake and suddenly we'll have a fight. Just like at the prototypes, have been essentially all race. Gerber ahead of Schneider, but only by 0.2 of a second. And now they have been in clear air. In that clear air, Nick has closed it down. Does he have better speed? Is there some damage on Gerber's car? Remember, he did hit one of the sausage curbs at one point.
Yeah, he needs to avoid them. Really, he does. He was very, very lucky that he didn't. He was just a millimeter away from sheer oof, but he just needs to keep a nailed focus for now, because he will be under pressure from Nicholas Schneider for the next 7 minutes and plus if it just rolls over into an extra lap.
He's getting checked up. Gerber, unfortunately, is having to slow behind Haynes, and here's the opportunity. Schneider knows it. He immediately slips through the middle, absolutely mobs the number 4, and takes the lead away. But here comes Gerber. He's going to get that slipstream right back as they pick up speed along the banking around the outside, which will become the inside, but he runs out of straight. So back into line he goes as they now go by Hugh Haycox, staying low and out of their way.
For Nicholas Schneider now, it is really about holding this position. He might not get another chance again if he falls back into second place, especially given the fact that these two have been absolutely going at it ever since the race started. They've just been going and going and going, and it is an absolute joy to see these guys race the socks off these cars. More and more besides, because especially given the fact that Fabian was doing some absolutely ludicrous moves coming into the kink. You know, it's going to be interesting to see how he handles it, how Nicholas Schneider handles it as they come around one more time towards NASCAR 1-2. Does Schneider have a better exit coming onto the banking? I think he does, just a little bit.
He's got it up to 1.8 seconds now, so there's quite a gap between the two of them, which is exactly what he needs in this moment. And we'll see if it closes back together here on some of these heavy braking zones.
Back in GTO, it is going to be Nicholas Mukanos leading the group of now 3. It used to be a group of 5, but unfortunately, Topi has fallen a ways, and that is Rob and Ove. Car number 2, car number 11 going side by side, coming into the bus stop. Does Ove make the move? Does he successfully execute it? Yes, he does. Very nice and tightly executed move. Just enough of the leaders.
Got to go to the GTP leaders, because Gerber got a great exit coming off of the NASCAR chicane and down into the first corner, swinging wide. Schneider way too defensive, but he doesn't lose the spot. Good exit. He'll keep him behind, but barely.
Very, very well executed move by Fabian. Just didn't have the legs for it, unfortunately, because Nicholas, I just don't know how he's like a magician, pulls it out of the hand, just says ta-da, the ace in the hole. Just had such a great defensive move coming into turn 1, and it's going to be I'm just gonna sit back and watch, because it's just a joy watching these two just piloting these machines. Absolutely great stuff.
Yeah, the numbers certainly do not tell the story. P1 and P2 are in those same positions where they started, but the race has not been that at all, swapping back and forth the entire event. And now it's looking like Schneider, the one who's a little bit slow, as Gerber closes in, but decides not to attack this time down into the bus stop chicane. Will he get a second shot through NASCAR 3 and 4? As they start to pick up speed, they're already 170 miles an hour here entering NASCAR 3. He is reeling him in. Schneider suddenly not so hot, going in a straight line as they break for the NASCAR chicane. Once again, can't get there in time. Both of them avoiding the sausage curbs. I have to ask, actually, Robert, I was wondering, I've noticed a lot of the UK and Ireland drivers tend to call them sausage curbs. At the French GP, I heard them calling them baguettes. And then here in the States, NASCAR calls them turtles. Is this a regional lingo thing?
It would be, yeah, most definitely, because, well, I mean, they just look like sausages, so you just call them sausage curbs. I mean, that's what they look like. I mean, I'd get why in France they'd call them baguettes, because, I mean, they literally look like baguettes. I wouldn't call them turtles, though.
Have you ever seen a snapping turtle before?
No.
Go look at video of one. Be careful which video you watch. You'll understand why. But these things will snap you up, just like a snapping turtle. Hence the turtles. As we watch this fight between Mukanos, Trangarade, and Olenek, and around the outside, some more interruptions with the lapping traffic of Silvazzi and Price. Looks like Mukanos going to get the good break out of that as he's split up by that GTP.
Just looking at it now, and you could just see, you know, these are not the modern day sort of GTE prototypes. These are the old school. These are really, really sort of, you have to be on your ball game 100% of the time. And especially coming through traffic, especially as we see right now, the battle for third is really starting to come back to four people, because Topi, putting in some very good laps, has now got himself the outside chance of making some moves to come onto the 1-2. It's almost like a ballerina, you know. They just the three of them in front just perfectly executing moves, and we are right on board with the car number 7 as he chases down car in 5th position, car number 2 of Rob. Just have the outside chance. He just lost a little bit of time. He didn't have the slipstream as best as he would like it between the 3 cars ahead of him, but don't rule him out just yet, because especially he's now got the orange Audi in his sights. Is that orange?
I consider it yellow. To me, that's like an 80s, 70s, 80s computer yellow. But
when it's sat out in the sun too long.
Yes, exactly. Now here's where it gets fascinating. The leaders cross the line with about 1:40 to go. They've been doing laps at a 1:38, so they should get one more at the line. But again, sometimes things can be a little bit wonky with the timing, so we have to watch carefully to make sure they don't actually get the checkered flag this time by. Schneider would love that. Gerber wants this to go longer.
It's all sort of a pandemonium right now, and it is coming down to the wires. They come through traffic. That is Fabian Gerber on the inside, almost making the move, but there was a GTO right there. Nicholas Schneider putting up the fences, saying, no, if you want this, we best start battling. The last lap is coming up, making the inside. Just 10 seconds to go on the clock. Is this the last lap, or are they going for one more? Still battling, going up to the line.
It's the last lap. There's the checkered flag coming out, and Schneider is going to take the victory, rebuffing Gerber on the final run. Incredible stuff. That wound up being decisive between them, as Phil Lake has a handy 5-second lead over Hugh Haycox. Unbelievable stuff here at the finish, as the battle for the top 5 has not been finished, coming down side by side between Mukanos and Trangarade into the bus stop, but we're going to have to take away from it, because here goes Phil Lake. Yuko's not around, and Lake is handily going to win here in round 2 of the Kamel GT series.
Nicholas Mukanos, very unfortunately, went wide in the bus stop. He has gone from 3rd all the way down into 6th. You hit crossing the line there, take second place. But the outside chance of Ove, car number 11, coming up to it, gets the final podium position after battling so excellently with the car number 8 of Nicholas Buchanos. And just behind him, Rob didn't have enough of a run to really make the threat coming into the NASCAR kink. Followed behind him is Topi in the car number 7.
Truly just snuck in. All the others were fighting. Here's Mukanos. Did he get a slowdown penalty or?
No, what happened was that he was battling side by side with the car number 11. As I come into the bus stop here, you can just see, a little bit of a touch and just going wide. Unfortunately, Ove had the inside line. It was his line to hold, and he had it tucked in. So just a bit too much there from Nicholas.
We're going to watch the Schneider incident. Now, this, to me, this was clever racing right here. Gloves off racing. As he really did box in Fabian Gerber, but to me that's fair in multi-class at the end.
I know he definitely had every right to hold that line. It was Fabian's line to make. He just needed to really sort of, make the move happen on the third line going around the very top of the outside. And Nicholas made the move. He had made the move in good time. He didn't make it, exceptionally in the last minute. But he had made the move, made it in good time. Unfortunately, Fabian really was just gunning for the opening that there was, but it was not meant to be.
Well, that'll take us to a quick break. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway Round 2 in the iRacing Kamel GT Series. Wound up going to Nick Schneider. Fabian Gerber was right behind him at the line. He had 2 chances at a pass on the last lap. Neither of them stuck, but what a battle it was. Jacob Reed was a quiet 3rd place, up from 10th. We didn't even get to cover him at all, I don't think, in that race, but kudos to the 12 cars. John Keefe as well. 4th place in the number 20 rated machine. He's going to get some iRating today. Heitor Sintes Guindo was 5th with Zach Price in P6. And it's Patrick Silvazzi in 7th as Javier Mosquera finished in 8th. Laust Olsen qualified so well, but he ran into so many problems. He had to settle for 9th. Kevin Brooks was 10th. Ed Bray first one lap down in 11th as Jeffrey Furcon was 12th. What about our GTO results here, Rob?
In GTO, Philip Lake takes pole and takes the win. Very well done by him. Just absolutely masterclass racing out there. Hugh Haycox, I would not be too upset over a 2nd position. He did very well when he was battling Philip Lake. Ove in the car number 11 in 3rd. The outside chance, I would have thought, for taking 3rd position, but very well executed last minute move did put him on the final spot in podium. In 4th position, Robbo in the car number 2, doing very well. Topi in the car number 7 in 5th position. In 6th was Nicholas Mucanos. Unfortunately, just didn't have the luck on his side when he was coming that side by side with Ove in the car number 11 on that last lap, and he's put him down into 6th. In 7th, Jamie Hamill-Smith. In 8th, Devin Donaghy. In 9th is Marty Ole. Hideki Kavisto in 10th. Mark Ole in 11th. Reed Miller, very surprising. He actually had to take a pit stop in the middle of that race, so he is down in 12th after being so far up there. He was one of the 5. Is that how we put it? One of the 5 original sort of battle for 3rd people, and followed by Mika Tuapola in 14th. Diego Ascensos. Ray Oliver in 15th. Marty Novak in 16th. And rounding out is going to be 17th. Oren Laskin, Christian Arribas in 18th. Michael Hayes in 19th. Christopher Lees in 20th. And finally, Ian Haycox, 21st.
That takes us to our 2nd place finisher this afternoon, Fabian Gerber. And Fabian, what a fight that was. But I'm curious, there was one point where you had to cut the NASCAR chicane, and it looked like on our screens you may have touched the curb. Did you, and did it get you any damage?
I don't think so, no. It was all normal. I actually just slightly touched it. It wasn't bad at all. No. I had other difficulties than this.
Yeah, and let's talk about that last lap. You had 2 shots at trying to overtake Nick, and neither of them quite worked. First one looked like you had a 50-50 chance on which side you chose, and I guess you chose the wrong one.
Yes, I expected him to block the outside, but not box me in. So I was going for the middle actually, but I expected him not to lose the race in the last lap. So it was pretty much pointless, because all the race the position was decided by traffic. It was sometimes my luck, sometimes his luck, and it just depended who gets lucky last. And in the final lap, it's clear that he doesn't want to lose it anymore. He didn't do anything unfair, so it was all okay.
It's good to hear from our end. We didn't think so either from the booth. I mean, speaking of the traffic, you're going to need that practice because we have Brands Hatch at the next round. Does that help? Is that helpful, you think, what you experienced today, having to deal with so many cars out there?
It's so much different with the downforce difference. So it's very difficult to go offline on this track with so little downforce, and I had even less than Niklas. So the car with the heavy front springs now just slides on the front. It just won't turn. And if you're on the inside overtaking now, it's even worse. So Brands Hatch will be different, but I'm not 100% sure if I can drive it. I'm more spontaneously deciding to race all the races this season. I'm not sure quite yet.
Well, we hope to get to see you in as many as possible. That was our 2nd place finisher, Fabian Gerber, with a podium here today. A little bit better than his last race. In the meantime, Robert has caught up with Phil Lake, who won in the GTOs.
Phil, An absolute masterclass of racing there. Congratulations on your win. How did the car feel out there?
Yeah, the car felt great. I knew I had a slight pace advantage over everybody from the practice before and qualifying. I usually don't qualify very well, so getting pole, I already kind of went into the race knowing, or at least hoping that I would have some pace advantage over everyone else. And I just tried to get a gap right from the start, which didn't work. Hugh really hung on and put me under pressure, and we had a good fight for the first sort of 3/4 of the race, and then he just got unlucky there at the end with some traffic.
Yeah, take me through that, the battle between you and Hugh, because it really at times was looking like it was going to go down to the wire. Then you were able to pull a gap, and at the end of the race you were 5 seconds ahead of him. Talk me through the early stages. What were you just trying to do? Were you just trying to, cut the slipstream, and just try and escape, or?
Yeah, pretty much. The slipstream is it starts to work from quite a long way back in the Audi. So you need maybe 1.5, maybe a bit more, 1.6 or 7 seconds gap, which is really hard to do here because you've only got the infield really before they're back in slipstream again. So I really needed that bit of traffic to just create a bit of gap, and then I could do the rest through the infield. And then once I had the gap, I could just slowly pull away a little bit each lap.
And the traffic as well. How was it to deal with the GTPs out there? I know it can be very scary to come, when you're in a little car like the GTOs and the GTP comes screaming by. Was it all cordial out there today?
Yeah, pretty good from my perspective. It's quite a straightforward track. There's only, with the chicane added in, that's another big braking zone where the GTPs can pass. But I don't think that actually happened to me there today. So most of the time they were just passing me on the oval. So that's ideal, really.
Well, what can I say? Congratulations on your win, and we hope to see you at Brands Hatch. And how, are you feeling psyched for that?
Yeah, home track kind of. So I do like the track. I think if Yuko's back, which I assume he will be, he'll be quick there. He seems to have a bit of his driving styles. It seems to be better than mine through high speed corners. So I think I might struggle to keep up with him, but we'll see. Hopefully another good result.
All right. Well, that is going to close out our interviews for the afternoon. So we're going to, of course, give a big thank you to the iRacing Kamel GT series for bringing us back for another season of coverage. But we also want to thank the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts that you can see listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. You can check out her Bandcamp listed there. And thanks to the team today, Rob, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also, check out our social media. We've got our outlets listed at the bottom of the screen. And if you want to support the channel, check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. Link is in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment, because next week we're going to Brands Hatch. That'll be Saturday, July 3rd at 1 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar, because in just about an hour and some change time, we're heading off to Olton Park for the Formula V Weekend Warriors. That'll be at 4 p.m. Eastern. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.